Western imperialism reached its peak during the years 1880 and 1914. There was a large growth of European powers nations abroad, as well as a steady stream of migrants, money, and manufactured goods. The Western Europeans were racing to plant a flag over as much territory as they possibly could, acting first and thinking later. Who doesn't want to win a race? This race was no different, and the Europeans were in it to win it. The results of their harmless rush for land were more than they may have expected. There was conflict that sometimes resulted in war, or rumors of war, that led to an overall feeling of tension, and they didn't even have an AP test to worry about. The main targets for the expansion of land were Asia and Africa. While it seems broad, these Europeans had no trouble slicing it up and claiming chunks here and there. Down in South Africa, in the land that used to be Dutch settlements, now owned by the British, there was some trouble brewing. The people there called themselves the Boers, which means farmers, and this confrontation with the oncoming British led to the series of fights known as the Boer Wars. These wars, also known as the South African Wars, were almost lost by the English, but reinforcements saved the day, and the Boers now must live in the Union of South Africa, which is a British colony. One notable name for the Brits is Cecil Rhodes, known by his desire to have a rail system from Cape Town in South Africa to Cairo in Egypt. A little ways around the globe in Asia, territory was being grabbed there. The United States in the Philippines, as well as Russia along its borders, joined in the claiming. The English, French, Dutch, and Germans already were there, and it was a wonderful party.
One reason countries joined imperialism was because they needed new markets. By the 1870s, France, Germany, Great Britain, and the United States all had extremely high tariffs, so they used their colonies to keep expanding economically. Colonies became coveted status symbols, and ideas such as social Darwinism and racism further pushed along imperialism. Imperialism was endorsed by missionaries and humanitarians who wanted to spread religion and end the slave trade, while military men and colonial officials saw this as an opportunity to improve their life. Europeans believed that they would civilize the more primitive non-white people. They received modern economies, cities, and advanced medicine. The white man's burden was the idea that Europeans could bring unique benefits to the less advanced people. However, not every European was a fan of imperialism. Some said that it ultimately hurt the European taxpayer and the natives economically. Also, the expansion took attention away from domestic reform within Europe. The European invaders threatened the traditional ways of life in Africa and Asia. The natives' initial response was to drive away the evil foreigners. However, the West and their superior military advancements easily overcame the natives. Some people realized that they should accept and copy the West in order to advance. However, most citizens of the colonies would always resist the Europeans, either because of their dignity or because of the liberal ideals they learned from the Europeans. One example of this is India. The British East India Company conquered India in 1848, and the last rebellion was ended in 1857. Afterwards, Britain ruled India directly. Britain's rule improved India by giving it an improved education system and communication technology. The educated elite, however, grew more and more angry at the racial segregation they faced and formed the Indian National Congress, which started to demand for national independence from Britain. Japan originally had a feudal society with a shogun who was supported by samurai. When the Western countries invaded the Japanese and gave them the short end of the stick in multiple treaties, many of the samurai felt humiliated, leading to them taking away power from the shogun and giving the power to the emperor, which was called the Meiji Restoration. The reformers had to meet the foreign threat, and so they embraced the military and industrial aspects of the Western societies. The new leaders rebuilt the government to match the liberal ideals of the French Revolution, and created railroads and modern factories, as well as a free economy. The Japanese took ideas from the European military, as well as their technological and scientific advancements. The Japanese state eventually grew strong enough to participate in imperialism as well, and they gladly joined the party. Meanwhile, in China, the government seemed on the verge of collapse in 1860. However, a combination of a temporary improvement in government and foreign support saved China. After the Sino-Japanese War, countries realized how helpless China was, and many imperialist countries wanted a piece of it. However, a combination of jealousy and the open door policy, which opposed the formal annexation of China, stopped the European powers. The Chinese government realized it needed help and launched the 100 Days of Reform. However, other people thought that the foreigners were the problem and held a strong hatred for them. Groups of these people, like the Boxers, rebelled and killed over 200 missionaries and over 1,000 Chinese Christians. The power of the government further decreased, and finally it was overthrown and a republic was formed in 1912.